For, actually, you don't need to. Okay. I'll just call it to order. Approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Rick, seconded by Kevin. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And over to our CEO for our staff report.
Oh, no, we've got public questions.
Oh, pardon me. I'd like to ask any members of the public, maybe even staff, question or comment? Seeing none? Okay, we'll move into our reports, please. To our CAO, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This recommendation from staff is to appoint Russ Cameron as the interim head of the fire department for the District of Sooke for a 3-month period effective August the 8th, 2016. Russ brings with him 25 years of experience in a composite fire department in Colwood. He's been recognized in British Columbia and in Canada for being one of the best operated fire departments around for a number of years. His duties will be mostly to maintain or to improve the operations of the fire department while the career staff attend any incidents. If there is a major incident, of course, then Mr. Cameron would be part of that solution. He will also be taking over the EOC command for the 3-month period while we hire a permanent fire chief. We're getting the posting ready right now to go national with this posting. We expect the process to last at least 2 months or so before we get through shortlisting and interviewing, with the aim to having a new fire chief on staff in October when this contract finishes. So I'm happy to answer any questions, should you have any.
Councillor Pearson? You need to turn on.
Sorry, a couple of questions. So Mr. Cameron, he comes with lots of credentials. My only concern is that where does he live? Like, I mean, do we, we have a fire chief, the benefit of a fire chief who's in our community now. Mm-hmm. So, and I know you probably don't have another fire chief in local. So is that, does he understand that he's on call, and how are we going to deal with that?
Yes, through Your Worship to Councillor Pearson, he is fully aware of that, mm-hmm. and he has committed to being available to the district whenever he is required to be available.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, I guess, is that I have another question, is all right, through the chair to you, is so in my line of work, we don't sign the new contract until the old one actually leaves, so that in case that someone has cold feet and they rescind their retirement at the last minute or the 11th hour. So is that kind of part of your game plan too, or is that, are you cognizant that could potentially happen? I guess that's one.
I am cognizant that could potentially happen. The former fire chief is using all of his banked vacation up until October 17th, after mm-hmm. which he will retire. He has signed a retirement letter and a letter of confidentiality, mm-hmm. Okay. So I don't expect him to return to the job.
Yeah. And the only reason I bring it up is that because it has happened to me, where we've actually our policy is we don't hire until the door closes, right? So on October 17th, that if it's at noon on October 17th when his leave runs out, we can hire somebody at 1.
Yes, and part of the reason we have an interim chief is to go through that competitive process, and we won't have the new chief starting until the old chief is finished.
Okay. Go ahead. And last question is, so the appointment of Mr. Cameron, which I fully support, and it's good. We're getting some in-depth experience. Is he going to work with our current fire commission, and looking at some of the recommendations of the report that the fire commission has brought forward?
The interim chief, Cameron, will be working with the fire commission with respect to the matters that are within the terms of reference for the fire commission. They don't include staffing, they don't include labor, they don't include negotiations. And the interim chief, Cameron, is fully cognizant of that. Okay. We've asked the commission to continue doing the good work that they're doing with respect to short and long-term capital plan and some other operational matters that they will work together on.
Good. Okay, so I have one more question. Sorry, I did it. And my last question is that I get asked this question in the public: is the remuneration for the chief in line with what we would pay throughout a broader scope of, say, British Columbia as an example. So is there an opportunity between now and the time that we hire a permanent chief that we could actually look at that compensation in that package?
We will absolutely must take a look at the compensation that the former chief was receiving. It is not in line with the rest of the chiefs in British Columbia, and I plan to bring a report forward to council to address that matter in the coming, well, in the time that Acting Chief Cameron's here.
Right. And I guess so in that report that you're going to bring, will there be the terms and conditions of that employment? Because as an example, we've had issues with banked overtime and banked holidays and things like that, and there's a standard management package I think that we should be. Okay, thank you. That's it. My questions.
Councillor Casper?
So is Mr. Cameron the same Mr. Cameron who has done consulting services in relation to fire departments and that?
Yes, he is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Ray?
Thank you, Your Worship. In terms of, I'll be supporting the recommended, the recommendation here this evening. I'm just wondering whether or not that we should perhaps reword the 3-month period just to allow for time or any issues so that the CAO does not have to come back to council to look for an extension. I appreciate, if you're going nationally, that there may be a need, and just also being mindful of Councillor Pearson's comments. If the fire chief, former fire chief, if his date doesn't finish until October 17th, I would suggest that we make it either a 4-month or a 5-month or sooner, depending on the hiring of the new fire chief. I just think 3 months is an awfully short period of time to get somebody in place.
Perhaps our CEO will respond to that.
And thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Ray, we were lucky to get Russ Cameron for 3 months. Okay. I think if we were to try to extend that at this point in time, it probably wouldn't serve our needs in the longer term. I think what we should do is do the 3-month term, and then as we're moving through the 3-month term, depending on how things are going, I'm happy to come back to Mayor and Council and to seek an extension. I just think that the 3-month term was a big commitment on behalf of Mr. Cameron, and I would like to respect his wishes. We can always try to cajole him later.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think it's good just to get an update as things progress, and then it provides council an opportunity to ask any questions if any so arise. But thank you for bringing that forward. Other questions from members of council? Councillor Casper,
No, I was gonna move
the microphone, please.
I was going to move the recommendation as outlined.
Okay, is there a seconder? Councillor Pearson. Okay, I just have a couple of questions. Just to clarify, and this is just because of things that I've read in the media. So our fire chief had submitted his resignation, but he has holiday time now that's covering him.
Yes, until October 17th.
Okay, so and that was by his desire then that he's using up all of his bank vacation, and that's when it all sort of runs out then?
That's correct.
Okay. The other part is in the last bullet point, further that a letter be forwarded to Chief Sorensen. I agree with the letter, but I also think that something a bit more substantial than a letter should be given to him. I don't know if there's some sort of a, just given the length of service and for his tenure here at the district. I know in government usually you receive something more than a letter.
Yes, Your Worship. There's two things happening right now in discussion modes. Both the career firefighters and the volunteer firefighters want to have an event, a celebration for the former chief. They're in the beginnings of a conversation with respect to that, what it might look like, and whether or not they can use the monies provided to the volunteers on an annual basis to thank them for their efforts to combine the two events. And so we're at the preliminary stages of talking about that. There's also a plaque that we're going to be getting made up for former Chief Sorensen to be presented by Mayor and Council.
Okay.
And then staff at the district are also going to want to do something for the chief. So are there 3 substantive recognition ceremonies in the works right now for the chief?
Okay, I know that I can't remember how much money we put into the volunteer fund for their annual banquet. But I do feel that we should not, they shouldn't deplete that for this. There should be funds for them thanking and celebrating their service, but I also think if we can move something from contingency for the chief's retirement party, I would like that rather than, I mean, it's great that the volunteers have offered to do that, but I think we also need to celebrate their time and their commitment, and then to put something forward. So.
Yes, and Your Worship, if I may, I believe this is that the conversations are happening behind the scenes with former Chief Sorensen, and the preference for all the career staff and the volunteers is to have something separate from what Mayor and Council are going to do. So this is something I believe, and I can double check tomorrow, that this is with respect to the chief or former chief's wishes.
Okay.
Oh, and also, Your Worship, the budget for the volunteers is approximately $12,000 a year.
Okay.
And I'm happy to, if Mayor and Council chooses to augment that budget with something in addition to that for the chief, so that they can have the celebrations at the same time. I think that would be great.
Yeah, okay, great. Councillor Pearson?
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Madam Mayor. I think in a case like this, when we have somebody who's in this line of work, I think it's incumbent upon us to have a formal ceremony. And I don't know if we've talked about it over the last 4 years, that we have a, not like key to the city, but it's like an honorary citizen of Souk. And there's something that we should be doing. I think we talked about it last time, developing that. And I don't know where that's at in discussion. I think it was sort of council had a thought about that, because people who, particularly the chief in this line of work and the things that he's done over the last 36 years, I think it's incumbent upon us to have a very formal ceremony, because whether we do it here in the form of a council meeting one night or an actual separate meeting, I think it's absolutely imperative that we do that. So I don't know where we go from there. But.
If I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor Pearson, when I was councillor in Colwood, we had an very official meeting in Chambers for the transfer of guard from one fire chief to another fire chief. All the firefighters and volunteers were in attendance, as was media. And it was a very, very, I think, I felt it was an honor to be at that ceremony. It was very formal and well attended and well respected, and I think that's pretty traditional with respect to chiefs leaving and new chiefs coming in. That's pretty standard practice right across British Columbia.
I really like that idea, and I like your idea, Councillor Pearson, of a key to the city. I think that's key to the district, perhaps. It's really old school. I love that sort of thing. Well,
I think we need to do it sparingly so that it is a special honor when it does come out. So I guess we can finish with the motion first, but I'd like to make another motion that we direct staff to find out about the formal ceremony, because you don't want to leave it too late. Mm-hmm. We got to get the right people. Maybe the fire commissioner of British Columbia comes, or somebody very formal like that has a formal ceremony. So I'd like to know what else is out there. So, anyways, I'll do that after.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion as presented, Councillor Pearson?
Just a curiosity, I'm asking a lot of questions today. The second bullet in there that says, and rescind the appointment of Steve Sorensen as fire chief, is that so that there's only one chief in command, so that it'll be Russ Cameron effective immediately? Okay, I just want to.
I'm nodding my head, Your Worship, yes, for the record.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from council? Okay, I'll call the question in. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, now Councillor Pearson, if you'd like to make your motion.
I'd like to make a motion that staff investigate and pursue a formal ceremony similar to that of other districts. Or, I don't know, Mr. Joseph, have you got that, or are you going to be able to capture that? Investigate a formal ceremony and prepare. Investigate and prepare a formal ceremony. For the transition. And recognition.
And through your worship to Councillor Pearson, because interim Chief Cameron was in charge of that transfer of ceremony when he retired in Colwood, we've got a pretty good source of information there.
Yeah. And I'm happy. I'm happy with that. I want it to be known that council wants this to go ahead and that we make it right. Okay. Okay. This is a very special occasion for somebody retiring. We need to recognize that.
That it is. Okay, is that, we'll just wait till it's, that staff investigate and prepare a formal ceremony format for the official retirement of Fire Chief Sorensen. Is that?
Yep, that's good.
Okay,
And
that's your
then
intent?
about the key to the city thing, or I don't know what I'm gonna.
And include, prepare a formal ceremony format and include a traditional key to the city?
Simply, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's time for us to start some things like this.
I like that.
We do.
If you know of a town crier, I'd like to get that going too, but there may not be time for that. Reflective of his, and include a formal recognition reflective of, like a key to the city.
Yeah. I.e. Yeah, you can put.
I.e.
If I may, Your Worship, some municipalities also, or not also, tend to name a street after
Yeah.
somebody with that significant of a contribution to the community. So council may wish to consider naming a street rather than a key to the city, because the key to the city is nice for the ceremony, but it's not lasting, whereas the street name would be lasting in the community for
We could do both.
a long time.
Good
Yeah.
enough.
I like the key. It's just it's such an old tradition, but and I love the idea of this street as well. So we could include both. I think didn't we at when the RCMP brought forward naming
Reg Williams. No.
the fallen constable? Did we amend something that because traditionally our bylaw is for legionnaires? Did we change something that it also includes first responders?
It was an honor. It was an honor.
Okay.
It was a double,
It was a double.
if I may, because my thing doesn't work.
Councillor Casper's microphone doesn't work, but he's saying it was an honorary.
No, now it works.
Okay.
So, no, my recollection is that at the foot of Maple Street, it still says Maple Avenue, but above it, it actually has a special street name designation for that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we could do something along those lines.
Okay. No, that's great. Okay, the motion, oh, yes, we should have done that before we got into the discussion. Thank you, Councillor Ray. Any further discussions on the motion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Sorry, your hand went up. It threw me there. Okay, and on that note then, a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Ray and seconded by Councillor Casper. Thank you very much. All those in favor of, okay, opposed.